Hello, everyone. Chloe Riley here, Executive Editor of Supermarket News, and welcome to SN Off the Shelf. This is a special tech edition of our podcast, SN Tech Wire. And today we're looking at loyalty, or rather, lately, more the lack thereof that we're seeing from consumers. I'm joined today by Alex Kinnier, the co-founder and CEO of Upside, a digital marketplace that connects retailers with shoppers with the goal of driving store foot traffic. Alex, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Chloe. Excited to be here.
And Alex, where are you joining us from today?
We have offices in New York, Washington, D.C., and Austin, and I am in Washington, D.C.
Nice. How's your weather in Washington, D.C. today?
It's our third day of rain, which is pretty great.
No, not okay. It's a little sunnier here. Well, send the sun your way. Okay, well, Alex, let's dive in. I mean, during the pandemic, we saw a real push towards digital and online offerings, really giving grocers that opportunity to build loyalty. But I feel like, lately the pathway forward for retailers is just feeling a little bit less clear in that way. I know Upside has a new report about consumer spending behavior. I think, let's take a deeper dive into the report. So to start, why did Upside create this annual report on consumer spending behavior, and what was the need there that you guys were seeing?
Sure thing. So every day we work to continually try to better understand consumers and retailers with the goal of making brick and mortar commerce work better for everybody. So to do this, we're looking across billions of transactions across tens of thousands of merchants. We're looking across billions of interactions between consumers and our app and our partner apps. And on top of that, survey data. And what we've seen is some interesting shifts in the data. And we decided to publish this with the goal of empowering retailers to improve their operations.
That's great. So it sounds like we're looking at something really, really thorough. So what were some of the key findings of the report?
Everyone is aware that years of economic uncertainty have impacted consumers. I think what's become what is less talked about is that, combined with more channels than ever for consumers to get their groceries and more retail options for them. This has all combined together to help consumers get closer to their pre-pandemic budget levels. And they're doing this by being uncommitted to brands or to retailers and being committed to finding the best value points. This new behavior, which, we're talking about, this uncommitted consumer, this learned behavior, is not something we believe that they're going to unlearn anytime soon.
Okay, so really what we're talking about, is the just inflationary behavior of shopping by price rather than by loyalty here, which we've seen, obviously, just since the pandemic has almost been unyielding. So talk to me about how, how is this sort of primary customer different from secondary or tertiary customers?
To your point, the idea of a consumer having their primary store and then shifting some of their spend to other stores, that is not new. We have to go a notch deeper than that. So it used to be that you had your primary store, and there would be a secondary store or two secondary stores, maybe near your work or on your way home, that you would go to sometimes. But you were more or less loyal to your primary store. The fundamental shift here is that primary loyalty is no longer there for this large and increasing set of consumers. Instead, their loyalty is to finding the value. And to do that, they're shifting all of their spending between stores and doing it in an ever-changing pattern where they're working to optimize for overall value and budget.
And so it sounds like what I'm hearing you say is there, obviously this idea of like, I'll pick up a gallon of milk on the way home and I'll get that from someone random. But the primary used to be, there was really a sense of loyalty in getting most of your groceries from that primary source. And now it sounds like we're seeing maybe it's a little more, or maybe even a lot more erratic in terms of shopping around. Is that right?
That's 100% correct. Yep.
Okay. And so how are we seeing retailers respond to this new way of consumer shopping?
Right. So the first is every retailer is working to find ways to make it more efficient for the consumer to choose them. Right. So through delivery or curbside pickup and subsidizing those offers. So that's number one. Number two is they're working to make it so that when that consumer comes into the store, it's a more captivating experience through reimaging, new store formats, and prepared foods. And then the third thing that every retailer has is a loyalty program, and they've invested tremendous amounts into these loyalty programs.
And that makes obviously a lot of sense. I think your report shows that loyalty program membership is growing rapidly, but interestingly, it's also outpacing actual engagement with these programs. So, can you break that down for us? Why should grocers be concerned about that trend?
Right. So, my last couple of points I think are known. This is I think the heart of the matter. Grocers have invested so much in their loyalty programs and made them so valuable and easy to use that in and of itself has started to cause the problem. So consumers universally love loyalty programs. 9 out of 10, we find, say that the value that they're getting from their loyalty program from their grocers is worth the effort put in to use it. But the idea is that now these consumers are using on average 18 loyalty programs. So to put this starkly, the consumer is more loyal to the concept of loyalty programs than they are to the retailer itself. They're uncommitted to the brand or the retailer, and they're committed to being in loyalty programs.
To loyalty.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, I'll say. I'm sure retailers aren't thrilled about that.
Right.
That's really interesting. So then how should grocers be rethinking loyalty programs to get customers in the door and to get them, sort of reattached to the idea of the brand of the retailer versus the loyalty in general?
Right. So to be clear, the loyalty program is incredibly important. When that uncommitted consumer decides that they're going to purchase from your store, the loyalty program is critical for that transaction. The challenge here is, how do you get their attention when they've committed somewhere else? When they're not on your property or around your property, both physically or digitally. And that's the challenge. It's how do you find that consumer in that space? And that's really what grocers have to push and try to think about.
I'm curious. Do you guys see that is it that primary, is it the person who already has the loyalty program that's the opportunity here, or is it those people who are not necessarily committed to your loyalty program yet that are the opportunity for the retailer?
So first of all, the majority of consumers at any grocer are in their loyalty program. Grocers are proud that 95% of their transactions come through that loyalty program. So that's not the challenge. The challenge is that they're in everyone else's loyalty program. So at Upside, we are looking and we work to find the customer when they're not committed and expand the reach of the grocer's loyalty program. So because we are interacting with the consumer through our app and our partner apps for many other purchase types, we have the ability to influence them when they're not thinking about committing to your grocery store. And we do that by trying to find the lowest possible value that will drive the incremental profit into your store, or capture that uncommitted transaction and bring it into your store. Now, this has two impacts on the loyalty program. First of all, because we're driving new incremental or additional trips into the store, it boosts usage of your loyalty program because they'll use your loyalty program in addition to Upside for that incremental trip. Secondly, and more to the point of your question, For the consumer who is not part of the loyalty program, we will drive more users into the loyalty program. So one study with Schnucks showed that 20% of the consumers that we found and drove into their store that were not part of the loyalty program signed up in the first 30 days.
Oh, that's great. Nice. And tell me a little bit more about the personalized promotions. Like, give me some concrete examples of how you're using that in real customer behavior, what people are doing, what kind of promotions, and what the personalization element looks like.
Sure thing. So the first is the data set. So what we're using is all the transactions at the grocer. But we are also seeing the consumer's behavior, what types of things they accept and don't accept across restaurants and gas stations and convenience stores and hardware stores. And so we have a full understanding of that consumer's behavior across multiple credit cards, so whole household view. Based off of this data, we can then see how much are they spending. And we work then to drive incremental purchases into the store. So the types of offers can be at the basket, they can be at the item, and we're working on category level. Personalized to that user so that we can find, what is that value point? What is the price point that you would give to that consumer on a one-to-one basis, which would get them to say, okay, I'm going to take this trip that I wasn't planning here and shift it into the grocery store.
Yeah, and that's so smart with that whole household element of that, because obviously, grocers are competing not just with other grocers, but obviously with restaurants and C-stores. And so, having that kind of the breadth of that feels really compelling.
And Chloe, we do this where the key to the entire model is driving incremental profit into the store. And only if we can drive an incremental action that is profitable to the store do we get paid anything. And that's an important element, because, if I was a grocer, there's two things I would want to know. One is I would want to know that all the work from my loyalty program to my store, for my incredible team is putting to get as many transactions that we're getting full credit for that. Right. And the incremental is the key, because it has to be on top of all of those efforts. That's number one. And number two is that I would want to make sure that my incentives were completely aligned with my partner, because I would want to go to sleep at night knowing that they're not giving away anything that they don't have to drive that incremental action. And that's how we are designed.
Sure. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Are some of the personalization part of it, like if you can drill down a little further, because I'm sure our listeners would be interested, is that like, we know someone drinks Coke Zero, and so based on their buying patterns, we serve them up an offer for discounted Coke Zero, or what does that sort of look like, or how does that translate?
Right. So we have the capability to do that, but by far the most impactful thing to shift the transaction in store is whole basket level promotions. The way to think about this is that how would you price a basket of goods for a user? If you had a one-to-one relationship with a user and you knew that this transaction was not going to come into your store, it was not coming into your store, it was purely incremental, and you could have a one-to-one relationship with them, how would you price everything in that basket to get them to come into the store? And so we are that pricing engine, which is finding that price point, which finds that incremental transaction and brings it into the store.
Cool. And what does that look like on the user end? What are they being served up in terms of, I'm trying to picture what a basket like offer looks like, or what that sort of, what does it look like on their end? So it
could be, buy $50 worth of groceries and get 4% off all your groceries.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Right? And so we're building a threshold in there to shift the purchases so that we can control for it's dynamic per user. So we're controlling any pull forward. And then it's an offer on top of that, which is usually highly compelling.
That's really cool. And do you find that sort of basket approach does that feel stronger? Do consumers resonate with that more than sort of the per item offers?
Well, I think that item level promotions are incredibly valuable if the user is looking for that item. And so there's a key place for that in the market. When you're trying to shift the entire basket in store, so you can get, more basket size and more frequency. Basket level is more effective.
That's great. Super interesting stuff. Alex, anything else you'd like to add? Final thoughts? What should our listeners take away from this conversation?
Yeah, I think the consumer data clearly shows that the consumer is behaving differently today. And that learned behavior now of optimizing for the value point and being uncommitted to the retailer and brand is a learned behavior that's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, this is sort of an issue that is immediate and very much present. Sure, all retailers are dealing with this on some level, and I think your insights are really valuable, and what you guys are doing is really interesting and compelling. So that's great. Thank you for sharing today with us, Alex. Thanks for joining us and sharing your insights.
Thank you, Chloe. And hope people can read the report.
It's great. Yeah, and we'll make a copy of the report available if we can on the story that we share with this podcast.
Fantastic.
And thank you all for joining us today on SN TechWire. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.